Welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday conversation on theconversation.cc. I'm Noelle Marshall, and with my co-creative husband, Bob Warner, who you meet in a few minutes. We call ourselves life partners, and also, I guess, are the designated mom and pop of the Co-Creators Convergence. So we are a Barbara Marx Hubbard legacy group, and we're a group that honors everyone's unique gift to the shift in humanity. And I'm going to put in the chat our website, which is co-creatorsconvergence.com. That's where you'll be able to find tonight's recording. They'll be archived there, as well as all the Zoom calls and conference calls, free conference calls we had going back to, let me see, 2015, I believe. 14. And 2014, Bob just corrected me from the other room. So anyway, as I was saying before, it's really wonderful. We used to do our Thursday calls once a month. Now we do them weekly because we're part of the conversation. And the conversation is a place where people can network and gather on many different topics 24/7, 7 days a week. So there's Bob, there's the other life partner.
Hi, everyone.
So yeah, so conversation.cc is a new water hole for us. And it's wonderful how we have this structure, thanks to our evolutionary hostess, I'll say Karen Trujillo Heffernan, wave Karen, who is our hostess that coordinates who's going to speak one week, and then they invite the next guest and continue to pass the baton. So with that's enough said, and I did hit the record button, yay.
Hi, Sarah.
Welcome everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to the amazing Asaki Kai, who's going to introduce her dear friend, Keri-Anne Livingstone. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and you too, Bob. And I've really been looking forward to this all week. So there you go.
All right. So everyone, good evening again. I am so excited to be here to introduce someone who has become beyond colleague, beyond co-practitioner, really a very good friend. For those of you who are in any form of light work, you know, it matters that you got a tribe that you can talk to and process with and do all the things. Otherwise, you get stuck and you can't deliver the goods to the rest of humanity, right? This is a part of the shadow work that we all do in agreement with doing these wonderful jobs where we heal the planet in all sorts of capacities. Keri-Anne and I met, I want to say about 4 years ago. And initially, where we connected, I'm near certain is Jill. I didn't actually, I just went back in my mind and go, is it Jill? Jill will be here in a couple of weeks. So Jill was actually the unifying factor between the two of us. And she did work with me, intuition, of course. And I have had the pleasure of doing work with her, in particular on a retreat. I'll give the really brief version of this story. I predicted to her a retreat she would have in BC, in Canada, in caves and water and things that most people would never see at a retreat. You know, like even if you were way up in the mountains, it's like, wow, this is really specific. And it was, you know, very specific rocks and different kinds of elements that were involved in bringing a certain energy to these people. Well, I got to see it. And then she learned the intuition part from me. And then I got to go be in that container with her. And what I saw from someone I already was learning from, you know, and who was already, I considered a colleague, what I saw from her there, and I'm going to try not to get emotional as I talk about this, because this is important to me, this part. As a Black woman, it is not easy to hop into everyone's containers. We know this. The same thing rides with therapy. You know, when you're looking for a therapist, you need someone who can have some understanding of what it is that you've existed in. I have never felt safer or in an environment that was more nurturing than I have Keri-Anne's. And it said so much to me because we were already in these very abrupt conversations about race and all of these, all the things, gender, everything else. And the fact that I could be there and process really, really brutally deep personal stuff in her container said so much to me about who she was as a person. The best way I can describe her work, and I relate it to my own in that it makes the most sense to me this way, I tend to make people float. I give you the learning and everybody goes into outer space. She's going to make you human again. She's going to bring you back down to earth, but in such a way that you embody whatever it is that is a part of your journey. And that's the beauty of Keri-Anne's work. Everything that she does, I mean, she's all the things. She's intuitive, she's a coach, she's a healer. But more importantly, she really is touching you at a soul level and helping you evolve. She works with a lot of practitioners, obviously, and including myself. I consider her a part of the inner circle team when I need to move past something. And for those of us who are living through this moment right now, we all know we all need to process something, right? We're all doing that. You know what I mean? Everything is up for review. Keri-Anne is one of the most thoughtful and careful in her process with you individually or collectively in moving you through the stuff that doesn't feel good, the stuff that might be hard, the stuff that you want to process so that you can be whatever the illumination is of yourself. I feel like sometimes when I describe this work, I'm almost talking in circles, because we're talking about the self, but at the same time, I know I'm talking to the right crowd and you understand what I mean when I say she creates and is a container for you to come and cry in if you need to laugh if at the ridiculous and the mundane, to process and move through whatever it is that you are actually experiencing or facing in a very dignified way. And I come from a world where dignity is kind of a big deal. So for me, it's been so effective to be able to work with her because I don't necessarily have to lose me in the process or question me in the process. I just get more comfortable with the self over and over and over and over again. That's who she is. That's what she embodies. Daring to Suck is exactly the kind of funny title that you would find in work related to her. Because what I discovered on the retreat is she's funny as hell. I mean, she's funny, y'all. Like Eddie Murphy funny. She's silly, she's dancing, she's singing, and I'm going, holy crap. I had no idea she had all that. And it was like a performance and a retreat all at once. And I say all of that to say she brings out your human in a very butterfly-like way. I hope that makes sense. All right. Keri, you take it away.
That was incredibly uncomfortable. You sit through. Like, for the record, it's never easier to receive in a lot of ways, but I'm able to sit still a little better. So thank you. That hit me. I was really asked to sit still and listen. You just cleared me out. So now I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Zach, you really messed me up. Thank you, because all the words you shared are I take them very deeply, and sometimes I don't realize what this has invited me to do. I'm sort of left with some blinders on so that I can show up and not see. And so to sit through hearing you speak is very humbling and emotional. So on that note, thank you very much. I feel really honored. And I feel really honored to be here. Daring to Suck is, so you've caught me at a very funny time. And Asaki and I can attest to this because she held me in a space about a week ago that I'm pretty sure I said to you, am I depressed? I was just like, is this what's going on? Meaning I was having a very human, very oppressed, very put upon experience, and where you wonder, is that over? Am I done? Do I not work anymore? And we need people to have these really real conversations with. And her and I held hands, we held hands through it. And what I love about working with helpers and healers like Asaki, that I'm praying for more and more. And I know part of my work is helping to flourish more and more of that to be with, instead of trying to manipulate or lead or take over, to lose that sovereignty and to trust the process that we're all moving through, which is incredibly human. And guess what? The buoyancy of who I am, the buoyancy of who you are, it floats, right? And in the last 48 to 72 hours, I have popped up over the surface, and I haven't stopped writing, and I have revamped my website. So I don't even know what it looks like if y'all went to it today, because I have been working on it, because it's time to take off the next layer. Daring to Suck started as a gateway for me to walk into, to change things in an accessible way. I was intimidated by spirituality. There was something about it I didn't trust, but I knew that I was more than what I thought I was. And so it was like, I had this epiphany about Daring to Suck at probably one of the lowest points of my life. And what began as an invitation to try things and not care if I sucked at it. Like, that was literally, and it was like, just so like a pedestrian. And it was like, I can walk through that door. I mean, it's funny what our soul will lead us to, and it will meet us exactly where we are to meet us. So we'll walk through the door. Sometimes it's harder, it depends. But there's some variations there, but it met me, and it said, and I was like, yeah, I'll walk through this door. And it got me through the door, and it developed and developed and developed. And that was 8 years ago. And this morning, it is now revealing itself. I've gone through 3 layers of it. The first one was really kitschy. Everyone loved it. I had a blog. Everyone was changing their lives and trying stuff. And we were comparing stories. It was very like, I don't know. It was very appealing. Like, to people, it was fun, until you move out of the daring part, and then things really suck. And then you realize, oh my God, it's got a whole other thing going on here. And it asks you to deepen your experience with it. And that caught me 4 years ago when I met Asaki, which was a few months after the sudden and unexpected death of my father. And it cleared the desk again, it cleared the table again of everything that I thought it was. And it took me deeper. And today, where I stand, I don't know if any of you caught the first part of this, but I was just saying that I'm in Vancouver Island right now. But only recently, a year ago, my husband and I experienced the next phase of Daring to Suck, which was, we felt the urge to sell all of our stuff. My husband is an acupuncturist, and he's like, I'm ready to close shop and figure out what the next thing is for me. And let's take the kids out of school, and let's see what happens. Let's sell the house, let's do it all, and let's go travel. And we, it makes it sound like we had the resources to do it. We didn't. So we did that. And it was like, you take the leap and the net catches you sort of thing. It was literally just an instinctual. We had no idea that 6 months into it, we were going to be, the whole world was going to change with this pandemic. And if we hadn't done what we did, we would have lost everything. We would have been under debt and under the house and all of that. He would have lost so much. So it's now become such a second nature for me to trust the messages I get through this process, which now is a spiritual path that no longer wants to bypass our humanity. It actually sees it as a gateway, where you're a gateway to everything, and you're perfectly on time, and you're perfect just as you are to step into exploring all the life, the death, and all the WTFs. That they're perfect in their own right. And they're here as these guides and gifts in disguise. And I seem to be able to interpret and channel a wisdom that wants to help unravel all the knots that we've tied along the way, in order to help you connect with the language of your inner guidance. And so it's a very weird place to be. So I feel it's a very special place for me to be. And the work that I do wants to offer a bit of a framework, but not my way. It's a way. And as I talk, what I want you to know is that when I talk, it stirs things up in people and it makes things arise to the surface. And my request is to use the chat as things come up. If you have questions, things that are in your way, things that you feel like you just have a WTF around, or you struggle with, and offer it up, because I am here to help undo and open up, kind of like loosen the knots a little bit so the air can move through it. It's not about fixing anything, because nothing is broken. And for whatever reason, I've been trying to write about what this is. Yes, Glennon Doyle, just saw a mention of Glennon Doyle. I'm not allowed to read her book, but I know of her. And I'm not allowed to read her book because I won't write mine if I do. So it's a very tricky place to be. But I do understand her work, and we're very aligned. It's annoying when I'm not allowed to read, because then I'll wonder if what I'm writing is hers, and it'll get all messed up. So sorry, Glennon Doyle's work is very aligned. She once said a quote. This is perfect. Oh, actually, what I was going to say is, as I talk, things are going to arise. I hope you have a journal. If you don't, type away whatever arises, because whatever arises through you, it's like it's like love what arises. That's very Matt Kahn, if any of you are familiar with him. It's very much that idea of whatever arises, notice it. It's not a mistake. It's not by accident. It's wanting you to be more curious about it. And there's something in it that wants to either be explored or expressed, with the result of expansion. And that expansion is so unique to you. And that's a celebration that there's no one like you. There's no one like me. And we're being invited now more than ever to flourish, to dare to say the thing, to do the thing, and to stand in that urge. So, and I'm here to facilitate the discomfort of navigating the nitty-gritty and the mess, and to help you trust that instinct and that urge, and to trust something, you got to test it. And that's not easy to do alone, especially as a helper and a healer. And if you're ready to unpack some bags and reveal even more, the time is now, and the power is you. The guidance I work with likes to rhyme a lot. It likes alliteration, so just prepare yourself. It also loves metaphor. So what I'd love to do is share a couple of stories, because I think stories show better than tell, and they want to offer you something. I don't know what that is yet, but you're going to find out, to help demonstrate a couple of things, and what this work, what this philosophy wants to offer the world in becoming and belonging, because it facilitates the becoming process in order for you to belong. But that belonging requires you to build a home within. And when you build that home, it wants you to work and create and live and love and lead from that place, and to be in better alignment with that inner home. And so some things you've outgrown. There's tchotchkes on the wall that weren't yours. They were your mom's or your dad's or your family's or whatever. And you're like, I'm over it. Time to move out. Time to have a spiritual or energetic garage sale, with respect, with deep respect for how long we've carried it. And that's the thing. There's a deep respect and sovereignty here. So this is weird for me to talk so much, so I get a little uncomfortable, but I am being told to tell a couple of stories. I'm going to check the chat because I see action happening and it can pile up. Okay, good. Some links. Cool.
Well, if someone does have a comment that they want to say, just
yeah, please. Yeah, how does this work? Do they wave and then I'm like, yes, what do you want to say?
Yeah, it's kind of very informal.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to start it off, okay? This daring not to suck. I'm going to give you an example of where I'm dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
I'm procrastinating starting to garden because I don't think it'll be good.
Tell me more about that.
I've got these about, what is it, 9 indoor containers that I'm going to plant vegetables in. And I'm just like procrastinating going to Lowe's and looking at all the YouTube videos and everything. Because I'm thinking like, you ain't no gardener. These things are going to die. You know? So anyway, it's just a funny, teeny little example of what you're, might be referring to. So I just, that's my
Yeah.
crazy, that's my
You
little
got
crazy
it.
little contribution.
Please
So
fix that for
making
her,
your
will you?
crazy little contribution. I like that you call it a crazy little contribution. I like alliteration, like I said. My guides are working with you now. So what I want to say about those instincts and those like, I don't know, but I'm really into it, sometimes things can just turn on a dime and all of a sudden we're into something. And if we don't trust it, it's like we don't take its hand and we won't go on the journey. So a lot of us get, the one thing that I loved about Daring to Suck was it wanted me to dare to do the thing without giving a shit about the finish line. It was like, that's over. That paradigm is over. And I was like, thank God, because I could never start things because I was worried I wouldn't finish them. I'm an intuitive creative. I live in the ethers a lot. I live in music and art and color and story. I don't love structure. I feel like it will, a part of me feels like it will kill me. So I'm like, no, I will not be me with the structure. And so one thing that this is now showing up with, it's like, get ready, girl, because now you're offering some structure that respects the creative, intuitive, the creative soul, so it's like, oh, because we do want it, but we don't want it to kill us. So getting rid of the finish line removes my attachment to the outcome. And then I wonder, well, what's there then? What's the point? That was my sort of ego or whatever, my fear of like, what's that point? And then I was revealed to myself, oh my God, I'm doing shit for feedback. Oh my God, I'm doing stuff for approval. Oh my God, I'm doing stuff to make sure I'm right or whatever. And what I want to say about this gardening is that we don't know what that is going to be for you, but there's something about the process. It wants to show you. It wants to show you with your hands in the dirt. It wants you to see. One thing I'm getting very clearly is that it's to remind you that you're a creator from anything, everything, and nothing. So take a deep breath around that, because that's they put these little sort of mic drop vibes through, and I'm like, all right. And think about that, or let that in for a hot second. You're a creator no matter what you do. So let go of what it ends up looking like. How does that change things? And what would happen if we brought enjoyment back into our life? The sheer unknowing of it, the sheer like, who am I here? Who am I with dirt and seeds and plants? And be delighted by what you find. Maybe you'll be like, I don't like this. Fantastic. There's something about knowing that is, the soul doesn't want a finish line. The soul doesn't want a gold badge. The soul doesn't want accolades. The soul wants experience. It just wants to do donuts on lawns. Like, it wants to do a big donut on the lawn of life and just, yippee-ki-yay, mother effer out of here. I mean, it's like there's something about gaining experience that is very rich, and we've lost sight of that on a societal level. There's all this achievement, and are you this and that, and where are you on the scale of da 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 da. So, yeah. So
well, thank you for that, Keri-Anne. And does anybody else want to jump in here before she goes, or you want to get right to the stories? Oh, okay, Margot.
No, that's fine. Go. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. You know that saying about your children are not your children, their life's yearning to live. And I think it's something like that. Well, you just got to think of those seeds. They have their own life too. You aren't really in control of them. They're going to grow if they want to grow, and they're going to die if they want to die. You're just the facilitator. You're not the controller. So go for it.
All right, Margot.
Thank you. Then I'm going to have to walk around the pots in the garage.
It's true. Thank you for that. Because we, our kids, I argue with some people when they're like, my kids are an extension of me. And I'm like, well, that's the worst pile of crap we've ever been sold. you know, and luckily I broke that in my lineage, which is hard for my mother, but I'm holding her. She's doing all right with it all. But yeah, it's like, it's okay to give them a voice. In fact, they're massive teachers for me. I'm raising 2 young boys, and they're empaths and deep feelers, and they're tuned in. I don't know what they're here to do, but they're here to do something big. So I don't want to get in their way. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to jump in at this point? Or just let me dominate everything?
No, let Keri.
I
Okay.
trust
another
whatever arises. So this is the thing. I don't know what I'm going to say. I show up and then,
Olivia
and then,
wants to say something.
all right.
Olivia.
Hey, Olivia.
Hi, Keri-Anne. I was telling my friend Deborah she has to come because you were going to be funny. So, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Asaki because I felt like a piece of chewing gum on the sidewalk of life this week, and this is just what I need. And thank you. And thank you, Bob and Noel. The other thing is that I'm an overachiever in recovery. So it's welcome to hear your words. And I can't wait for your stories. And I have to say that, Noel, I'm struggling with the same thing because we have a beautiful perennial garden. And our wonderful helper was just saying she ordered all these bulbs, which is wonderful, but I'm trying to get up the courage to follow Venerable Dahani Wahu's invitation to us to grow our own gardens in the city. And what she told us to do, may I just share what the task she gave us to do?
Mm-hmm.
This you'll like, Noel. You're going to take 2 plants, and one you're going to just love to death. You're just going to love it or love it to life. And the other one you're going to neglect. You're going to say horrible things to it and everything. And you do that because it teaches you. You don't have to do it too long, but it teaches you how the relationship we have with our plant brothers and sisters. So then we can have the courage to, I'm exactly right there with you. So let's support each other. Really, I have a client who's going to who wants to help me do it. And I'm going, I don't want the responsibility.
Oh, can we talk about that?
I know.
Can we talk about the word that Olivia just said? You know, raise hands or whatever, for anyone that just has a real. So you mentioned 2 things about the relationships we have. We're in relationship with everything.
Right.
And if plants right now want to be our teacher about how we're in relationship with everything, so be it.
Right.
But don't get it twisted. That's exactly what it's doing.
Right.
You know, how you are with anything, you are with everything, right? And responsibility is a big piece. So the second phase of Daring to Suck was showing me that I'm an empath and I work with empaths, and that we come with not just empaths, but these deep feelers, helpers, and healers. There's this relationship we have with responsibility that wants to be cleaned up. And one of the best revelations I ever had was realizing what responsibility meant versus what it felt like. To feel responsible versus actually being responsible is very different. And if you take a deep breath around that statement and wonder about what that means for you, it's incredible what it wants to point you in the direction of. How we feel responsible can very well be a huge illusion, and it can carry a lot of weight, a lot of baggage. Certain words I get shown in sessions, certain words present themselves and they're like, help us clean this word for this person. And so we open up what that word means. You know, when you think of the word responsible, this is an incredible exercise. If you feel burdened by not wanting to feel responsible for other people, especially if you're a practitioner and a helper, that was a big barrier for me to overcome because I didn't want to do harm. I'm not here to do harm. I'm here to help. And someone's coming to me with the most intimate, traumatic, devastating things. And what am I going to do? Like, what if I screw them up? My kids, what if I'm going to screw them up? My husband, what if I'm going to screw? I'm so responsible. I grew up in a household. I mean, I was a survivor of sexual abuse, and in the household, there was alcoholism and addiction. And so there was codependency, and oh my God, the responsibility of making sure everyone was okay. I know that was part of the reason why I came. I was called off the bench. It was like, get Keri-Anne in here. we need some help. And I was this anchor that anchored the family and to try and help them. And my dad, by the weirdness of another story, he told me that a month before he suddenly died. He just went to sleep and didn't wake up. But I had the grace of hearing him say that. Like, yeah, I think we did. We were a bit of a mess. And so responsibility is, when you break down the word, it's our ability to respond.
Right.
And then we start, and that opens up like, what? You mean it doesn't mean blame? You mean it doesn't mean, burdened? It doesn't, that's different. And then it asks us, if someone wants us to do something, or they expect something, or we expect something of ourselves, how realistic is it? How kind is it? Do I have the ability to respond to that right now? Which invites us to look into our bandwidth. What I got going on right now? Do I have resources? Do I have support? Do I have the clarity? Do I feel connected enough? Do I feel like I want to? Like, we all have this permission to show up more. Well, what they want to say is more honestly. And that doesn't mean we're being deceitful, but the something of the crux of it is that we are often deceiving ourselves and we don't know it. So there's innocence there because we just don't see it. What we don't see, we don't know. So I'm sort of here to like open up a bigger conversation and sort of shake it out a little bit. And for you to decide, Olivia, anyone, what do I want responsibility to mean? Because right now I want to be responsible in my life. There's an invitation, there's a plot twist that happens where responsibility no longer wants to be burdened. It says to us, I never wanted to be that for you. I only wanted to help you respond to your life, to respond to the requests, to respond to your instincts, to respond to your relationships, to respond from self. How are you going on in there? You get to say yes, you get to say no, and you get to experience all of it. It's not about right, wrong. It's like, let's say you don't have the bandwidth and you say, yeah, because we do. Well, you're going to experience what that's like. And then guess what? You can respond to that. And we love you and keep going and like stay open. And the one thing I love about, covered in goosebumps. So what I love about it is the absolute permission that wants to be handed over in sovereignty to make mistakes, holy mistakes. They're sacred mistakes. My soul has led me into many a WTF that I created that now I laugh at because I'm like, oh my God, if I didn't know about this, I would have blamed me and shamed me for the rest of my life that I screwed it all up when I was 20 years old or whatever. And I wrecked it all. I've been shown too many times that I was right on time. And it's like not knowing the plot of a play and just one person knows and no one else does. And they're just like, you nailed it. You nailed it in your blind ignorance. Way to go. You were so ignorant. You had no idea, but we set you up and you hit the ball right out of the park. And there's cheering on a soul level that we don't get access to. That's like, woo, she's going to go meet that person, or she's going to go have that experience now. And it's wild what I'm shown behind the curtain. And so responsibility wants to be cleared up, and it just wants to be like, I want to be something new. I want you to decide what I mean now.
One thing I've been working with and inviting people to join me is synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
I think synchronicity may be another way for me to get away from my wrong impressions, my soul mistakes of responsibility. But synchronicity has been helping me, just really paying attention to coincidences and thanking them. And sometimes they're, WTFs, a lot of the time, but I'm opening up to them. And it takes my runaway monkey mind in another direction other than hit myself over the head.
You got it. Anything, it wants you to drop down out of wondering what it is. And when we wonder what something is, like, I wonder what that is, where are the first few places we go? It's me. I'm a problem. There's a problem. I'm bad, right? Wrong. Whatever. It is always that we're this, and we'll say, I get it. You tell me different, Keri-Anne. I'm the common denominator. I'm obviously a problem, and I'm like, okay, so let's put your self-worth aside, because a message that I received once loud and clear was, oh, you guys, like a real, like, you know, loving exasperation. And it was like, your worth and value were never in question. You picked that up from the pain of others. We understand the innocent interpretation. However, we're here to say, let's just take that out of the equation for now, for you to try on something else. So if we could play around with that idea that our worth and value are never in question, I mean, never, ever, because it's of course, we are the, we are the great almighty, of course, is what I hear. And I'm like, well, that's not messing around. We are the almighty, of course, here in body. So just take that. And sorry, I was laughing that one off because that's not messing around. And sorry, what were we talking about? It really threw me off at that one.
You know what I love? I just want to add something here. Because whenever the mind goes, I always say, okay, we just went into God consciousness. Finally, the monkey mind shut off and it came in. And then,
well, there it is.
so if you can trust that flow, I'm grateful.
There it is. Yes. And it wants me to drop down and ask a better question. So it doesn't want to say you're asking wrong questions. It just says you guys could be asking better questions. So a better question is what else? So, and they say it like that. What else? What else might this be? Other than you screwed up, other than you're bad, wrong, you're being punished, you don't get the reward. What else could it be? What else might it be? And the could and the might want you to list a bunch of things. The could and the might want you to brainstorm anything else that has nothing to do with your worth or value. And so this is a powerful exercise because somewhere on that piece of paper, it is there. The thing it is. An invitation to see something differently. Where is it pointing you to? What is it daring you to say or do? That, by the way, most of the time you don't really want to do, but it's like the last thing you're going to do. It's really kind of cornering you. It's like you haven't had that difficult conversation. You haven't admitted how you really feel. You haven't told so-and-so this, that, or the other thing. People don't know what's going on with you. You're being too quiet. You know what I mean? So it's the thing that we don't want to do, and it's going to stare right at you. And it's going to be like, damn it. You know, it's going to be a real bite in the ass. And guess what? You still have a choice. You don't have to do it. But the awareness wants to make its way to you to say, hey, I'm here whenever you're ready. We love you. You know, you can totally continue this, not willing. That's respected too, because what you're doing is hard, the humaning, very hard. But there is guidance and it wants to move through us, you know? And so, yeah. So thank you, Olivia, for responsibility, because that is a crux of a lot of WTFs that we embody and we don't even know what that, it's a feeling. We can't even articulate what it is. It's like an anvil on our chest and we don't want it no more. I've already been responsible for everyone and everything and I'm tired, you know? And so we do need rest also. There's balance. We need balance too. It's beautiful figure 8. So I see some things popping in the comments. Does anybody?
I would like to comment on what
Please.
Olivia said about synchronicity. It's just when you leave yourself open to it, it brings so much. And it's not like, what else? It's like, what else? What else? What next? Like, come on, I'm open.
Sometimes it's being, what else? Just for the record.
Yeah, oh, I know, because right. The last few months I've had okay, what else? But I do know that when I'm open,
right? Yeah.
When I'm open and waiting for it, I find it very exciting. And I find it very exciting to not know. The not knowing is really kind of cool, you know, like, oh, what else? You know? And so when I'm in the point of, oh no, what else? I have to remember there is, what else? What else? Oh no, this is so cool.
Yes, and the burden, what else? That heavy, sad, scary, what else? It wants to be clean too. It's like, yeah, we want you to move through that emotional, energetic layer, release all the baggage, because not a lot of it's yours. It's a lot of stuff that gets passed down and caught in our filter, you know? And that's why we're funny people, like we're funny humans. If we can't articulate it or nail it down to a certain situation or circumstance, then apparently it's not real. So, and yet we're stuck with a feeling. We're stuck with a feeling of it. And then we don't get to look at it because I don't know where it came from. And we're funny, right? The logic apparently has to match up with the feeling. And if it doesn't get talked about. If I don't know where this came from, then so the work that I do invites us to say, well, forget about where it came from. It's, I get offered very disgusting metaphors, so just bear with me. But it's like we've all heard this, like to release things, to let it go, but I often get shown like throwing up, like let it come up. When you feel that and you just like surrender to it and let your body do what it wants to do, it knows and it trusts its own, this part of its job, and it will bring it up. But you wanting to know where it came from and why it's there and all that sort of stuff is no different, apparently, than trying to sift through your own vomit, which is disgusting. None of us would do that. We would just want to flush it down the toilet. We just want to get it out. And so this idea of needing to know, to connect the dots, sometimes it will come, sometimes it won't. But the most important thing is, will you move it? Will you help it move? Will you be an ally in releasing this energy? Some of this stuff is ancient. I've witnessed like the roots of the earth be pulled up out of people. And if we spent more time focusing on where it came from and cataloging that shit and needing to put it in the right little cubby, oh my God, they just go, you guys, what you put importance to sometimes, when all we really want to do is live and we want to be free. We want to be liberated from that cataloging system. We don't need to name things. It's a more feeling, an intuitive way of experiencing our life versus trying to control an outcome or trying to control where it goes. So this is all very powerful to discuss and to consider what it means for us, what it means for you, where you are right at it, your time at this very unique time. There's newness here and we don't realize, I've never been here before. Like, how does that statement, if you say it to yourself out loud or in your head, and you realize the truth of it, I've never been here before at this age, with this partner or not, with these kids at that age, in this house, in this place in my life. I've never been in this breath before. And the assumption we have on ourselves to have known, to know things, to have it all figured out. We don't give ourselves the grace of newness, And that wants to work on us too. It wants to relieve us. It wants to take some of that weight off of us, and the fear, the burden we carry of needing to get it right. That's not a thing, So thank you for letting all of that open up here, because it's important for us to be with and consider. I'm sorry, dying here one of my stories. Okay. There's two stories.
Anyone doesn't have any other comments or questions, come on to your stories. But Linda,
where are we at for time, by the way?
We're 8:48. We've got another 40 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Linda, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah,
Linda?
go ahead. So the funny part of responsibility, of letting go, of recognizing is even when you see it. So one of my things to do is to read through old journals and to revisit places where I've been before. And I mean, where I've been before. Of course, it's another time around the spiral. So, you're deeper, you're whatever it is. But I find it really interesting, the patterns that repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that things keep coming. They are different, but it's like interpreting how you go beyond it, right? And this letting go place, this wanting to understand, it's like a sickness, right? It's like this, I don't know. I'm not going to judge it and say it's one of those diseases, but it feels very much like something, okay, I'm done with this already. Yeah. I'm really curious about how this is going to release from me, because I don't think I need to do this again. right?
Oh,
But there's
yeah.
that fear that, okay, did I learn the lesson? Did I actually learn what I needed to learn? Or am I going to have to do this yet again, right? Do I have to walk through this one more time? And so I'm listening and I'm like, yeah, I know that. I actually do know this. I think we all know this intellectually. It's this
Yeah.
emotional attachment that we have to this crap. And it's like, okay, what about this? Do we have
Talk. Yes.
good? Yeah,
What you just said, it's right there. You said this emotional attachment. Do you want to know why? Because there's this this is what I'm shown, and I've lived it, and I'm going to speak to it, and I don't have to be right. One thing that helps me show up is I don't need to be right, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. I just want to be part of the conversation. So what I've learned is that these aspects of self, okay, I'm going to tell a story about that in a second that really helps illustrate this. But there are parts of us, we are not one thing. We're multifaceted. We're like a kaleidoscope. And I honor that and celebrate that because we have these aspects of us that there's innocence there, there's wisdom in them, there's all sorts of different colors. And certain ones come up again and again. We say, oh, it's still here, it's still here. And there's so much playing out around this, which is, oh, it's here again. And there's this wave of, I often hear, didn't I do it good enough? Did I not do it right? Do I suck at this? Like, I obviously am not good at whatever, this healing thing, because I didn't clear it all out. And I've been offered a few things around it. One of them is the metaphor of being given a gift, which can be really messed up when it comes to certain things because some of these things don't feel like gifts, these experiences. But they're saying it's much like if I were to give you a gift at 5 and I sat there and I said, all right, Keri-Anne, or all right, Olivia, or Margot, or Deborah, and say, open it up now, all of it, and play with it in every way right now, in every way. A 5-year-old my 5-year-old opens up a Lego, he plays with it as a 5-year-old, and it's complete and it's perfect. And he revisits it at 6, he plays with it differently. He still gets something out of it. Mm-hmm. He's never going to get, Lego is a great toy to talk about because my husband, he's 47. He plays with Lego. He gets something out of it that's different now. And if we spend more time being pissed off, that we have to play with Lego again, they're just like, we want you to start to understand that there's nothing to blame or shame, that it's not kind and it's not compassionate. This process, this love, it's kind and compassionate. And if learning wants to be received, if you want to be in learning, it doesn't all happen at once. And it's not kind for it all to come through at once. It wants to come through. Like when I explain something to my children, they only receive it as a 5-year-old would. And that's why we revisit it. After my dad died, we revisited it 6 and 7 and 8, one's 11. And we still talk about it. And there's different conversations that flourish as a result. And it helps me understand and trust and remove that judgment and replace it with a wonder, which we've been talking about, to wonder if I'm not wrong. See, if we take that out of, because we're not, we're in process, man. Like we're in process. Like they just keep underlying that. If you understood you're a flower flourishing with more buds, you wouldn't be mad at a flower for having new ones that look similar or whatever, but there's newness there that wants to be enjoyed. And that's a weird word to use because some of it feels like triggers and trauma, but there's a respect around that also, like we understand. And there's something here for you now that wants to flourish and offer. It's like a fountain that comes out and comes back into the water only to feed back into the fountain. Again, to be more abundant as a result of having moved through the full process. And that we're almost like this element of recycling and gathering up fragments, gathering up the pieces of self that we have not known about or been unwilling or unaware of, that want to have deeper conversations, more compassionate conversations in order to understand more. So it's not about fixing anything. It's like gaining that understanding. That understanding wants to open and flourish healing in some way. And so they want to remove the talk that happens a lot in spirituality that sort of bypasses humanity and bypasses a lot of this stuff, gives this impression like we want this whole letting go, that we're meant to cut off a part of ourselves in order to survive, in order to thrive, as if that part was not valuable. But if we see that hurt part or that neglected part or that pain as something separate to us, as something that doesn't belong, it doesn't really want to come up because it thinks you're just going to try and get rid of it. But does it ever go anywhere when you have that agenda? It doesn't. And it's so frustrating because you think, oh my God, it's here again. And then you get mad. And it just deepens this divide. The divisiveness within us is so related to the divisiveness in the world. And there's an invitation here to hear with new ears, see with new eyes, like just what else, play with other options, please, for the sake of all, of you through all, like you're a conduit, for healing for others, anyway, there's a whole other thing there. But so there's just this invitation to consider what else in another way. And this isn't about, it's not as trite as like being positive about it. Not at all. It's like, meet it for what it is. Respect it. It's terrible sometimes. We don't try to put lipstick on it. We meet it. Let it talk. What does it want to say now that I'm 45 or 46? I was schooled at 35. I had had this experience of being abused at 5. Very confusing, obviously. I'm 5. I don't know how to deal with that. I told at around 7 or 8. I had that experience. I confronted at 9 my abuser. I mean, that's weird. And I thought, I'm telling you right now, when I was 11 or 12, I literally was like polishing my apple on my shirt. I am the most well-adjusted, sexually abused person on the planet. Like, weird for the 80s. But I remember feeling pride in what I had just gone through, that I had been facilitated through this really difficult thing. And I always wondered, why am I so different to other survivors where I don't feel like it was my fault? I heard that was the first thing you ever hear on Oprah or Dr. Phil or whatever. It was my fault. And I never had it. And I thought, skip that one. Sweet. I've been I did, it didn't get me. I don't know, but whatever. I felt like I was winning. And 35, I was sitting in my naturopath's office and he moved me through a process. And all of a sudden I was hit with this door jam that had significance because I was supposed to put the door jam in the door and I didn't. And that's why it happened. And it was all these flashes of images. And more and more came through that was just highly disturbing when I was humanly trying to put the pieces together. What does that mean? Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God. And it landed at 35. I thought I'd processed that. I was open. I talked to my peers. I spoke about it. Like, I was 35 on the floor. It was my fault. And it was as real. It was as real as it was the moment it happened. And that was holy. I have every right to move through that. That did not want to be denied of me. Do you understand? There's something about me moving through that I deserved. I don't know why, but I felt it. I was like, Jesus, I don't want to do this. I don't like this feeling. It feels awful. I'm to blame. And it took me out, but it took away a lot of things I'd been not knowingly carrying around. I just wasn't ready to look at it. I couldn't, I didn't, I wouldn't. I didn't know it was there. So there was innocence at 35 around it. And that humbles me to, often I'm like, some people are like, oh my God, I didn't want to leave my house now. Like the fact that you've told me that there's stuff that might hit me. Here, I think I got my shit together. And we have to laugh.
The part is, you can think you have it together 1 minute and then not next, and then have it together and then lose it. I mean, that's the funny part. I mean, the challenge for me has been, I keep going through this friggin' process where it's like, there's obviously something here. This is an invitation. This is a gift. And acknowledging myself for, okay, I did those things. It's okay. It's not something to judge. And then it's like the next minute, I'm like, what the hell were you thinking?
Okay, you know why? Because you never give the what the hell you're thinking a minute. So the last thing we want to do is actually be real with it. When you're like, oh, I know, I get it, it's okay. So your head says, I've seen all the movies, I've watched all the Oprahs, I know it's okay. And we have this dialogue that makes it okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful, but it's premature. It's too soon. It's like it's like when someone's in the heat of something and you're like, everything's fine. And you're like, it's not fine. Like, the reality of it says, it's not fine. Have you seen me? This part of you? I'm not okay. I still want to blame me. I still have judgment, and you are acting like I don't. And so it's like we're afraid to allow it. We think we're going to be consumed by it. All it just wants someone to sit down with it for a minute and actually let it. The retreat that I invited, that Isaki helped predict and show me. The thing was that she actually was like, you're going to this retreat. And I thought I was going to a retreat, and I went to look for it. And when I gave up, I realized I had a retreat, made it. And then she came, and then we found out there were caves. There was so much synchronicity, whoever was talking about that. But anyway, so at this retreat, my intention was full permission. What's arising? I don't care what it is. Like, we're not going to put lipstick on it. Let it. And I say it like that. Let it. Like, let it talk. I dare you. And I want you to see it. I want you to see what it is, because you think it's bad. You think it's judgment. It's not judgment. If you tuned into your judgment right now, what does it care about? What is it so judgy about? It obviously stands for something, but what? So get deeper with it. Have a different conversation. It represents something. Something was wronged and something feels wrong. So what's the opposite of that? That's what it stands for. And that's a part of you. Why in God's earth would we want to get rid of it? But if we don't understand it for what it is, we're going to be divided. We're going to have parts of us that we don't talk about, that we don't allow, and we're always pushing them under the water, but they're buoyant too. So what if I told you, trust everything, trust the timing of everything. It's arising right now because it's ready to go. It wants to partner with you. It wants you to finally see what's in behind it. I once saw in a vision, a metaphor of a little kid in a bear suit. Sounds silly, but it showed me these parts of us that will show up with sharp teeth and claws and growly and all sorts of weird stuff. And we'll be like, no. And then it just increases its energy until it's really in our face. And what we don't do is it's roaring at us and we're like looking away and we're trying to pretend that it's not there. And it was saying, like, look in the mouth. And it showed me there was like a little kid in there. And it was a bear. It sounds so stupid, but this is my world. And there was a little kid in there. And the kid was saying, I don't want to wear this, but over time, you've given me no choice. I had to get the claws. I had to get the teeth. What else do I need to do to get your attention? And it was so ridiculous. I was just so curious, and we explored it. And it was just this wonderful thing for me as a facilitator to be like, oh, this is the next piece that I'm supposed to understand. And once we understand that, it's like everything becomes less scary. We become less wrong immediately because we're not. We're never wrong. We're wonderful. So thank you, because we all need to consider this. We all need to invite some of these ideas as we're ready for a deeper conversation, for a different conversation. It's not that we didn't go deep enough. Sometimes we just knock on the wrong doors. We think that it's, I gotta eradicate this, or and it just says, come on, we like us. Like we're a part, we just misunderstood or missed high fives, and it just takes a different energy to get into it and hear it.
And I think the other thing is just continuing to surrender to it.
Yeah. Oh God, it's just so painful. We think we're going to die. We think it's going to swallow us up. And I know, and I still go there. There's no way I'm finished in this process. I can't show up that way. I have to have one foot in it. Otherwise I can't show up, because what do we want? Do we want to be finished? I don't know. What does that even mean anyway? Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm exploring it. I'm just kind of in it, and I'm walking through it, and I'm seeing where it takes me.
Yeah. And then, how are we with us in that? It's not easy. So what haven't we done that maybe we could do? How can we love ourselves more? How can we acknowledge our efforts? How can we celebrate paying attention? You know, Glennon Doyle, best quote ever. Somebody asked me why I cry so much, and I told her the same reason I laugh, because I'm paying attention.
Hmm.
You know, it's just, we're here to pay attention, us, all of us on this call. Otherwise, what are we doing here? We're conscious creators. We said we want our eyes open. We don't want to miss anything, but it's not easy. It's hard. We need help. Yeah. Thank you.
Are you complete? Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only other part of that is that I'm writing a memoir. So I'm reading my journals and writing the memoir and seeing where it leads me to what
Beautiful.
I'm, yeah, it's a whole process of discovery, I guess. Is the only thing that I can say about it. It's an interesting process, and it's taking me places that, you know, it's always having to release it. It's always having to set it, to let it go, but in a loving way, right? And to be compassionate with it. And then, you know, finding myself in that place again where I'm like, okay, let it go. You know, just it's okay. You can surrender to it in this moment and be okay. And then I read something else and I'm like, okay.
Ding dong, another door. You know, there's something about the letting go dialogue is really being sold to us in a fashion, and it gives us the illusion that it goes. And it's not that it's like, let it be. Let it be is different. Let it be what it is now. Let it teach you, let it show you. I see you with your book, and I see the invitation of like, just, it's like sitting on a bench with it, sitting on a couch with it, and just being with it and being like, if there's something for me to understand here, let it. If not, I will write. If there's something for me to understand here, let it, and I'll write. And that letting go, they're showing me of more of a loose hand, of a loose grip, so your fingers can move. Typing, right? So let it lead you, trust it, and like, it is a very daring act to see where it will take you, what it wants you to understand now. From this vantage point, well, you know, imagine being able to revisit, being able to go back in time and sit with the selves of us that made decisions, and to better understand or to acknowledge. Often, I feel like 90% of it is to finally, for them to receive the acknowledgement of what that time was, of how crazy it was, of how little you had available to you, about what you did know, what you didn't know. Are you going to say it? Please say it. You know, they're just like, that's what we want. That's what we want. And then we just want to be a part of you now. We want to move forward with you instead of feeling disenfranchised or left back here to be blamed when we didn't know, when we didn't see. And it's just so beautiful. And it wants to create with, it's a celebration that's going to help so many, Linda. It's going to help so many. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh. All
right. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story. So I'm going to tell you a story. So, I mean, there's so much to tell, but anyway. There's a story that beautifully sort of talks about, it was one of the very first intuitive experiences I ever had, where I could say, oh my God, I think that was a thing. And it came on the heels of a dear friend helping connect the dots between me and the child I miscarried, actually. And she said she wants to be a part of this. She's, you know, she wants to be a part of this, and she was never really meant to come, and all this stuff came from it. It was amazing. Many things that I've also received through since then that help, you know, verify that, oh my God, what a soul will do, what a soul will and won't do to help us, to help one another. And I laid down and I was just asked the question, you know, how do you want to work with me? And I didn't even know what I was doing. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna lie down and maybe close my eyes and breathe. And I had this very clear movie play out in my head. And it showed me this woman, sort of nondescript in a way, but beautiful. And it's in her own right, you know, this beautiful woman. And she was carrying these crystal goblets, and they were so specific. They were from the 70s, really heavy lead crystal with those prismed edges that we remember maybe our mothers or grandmothers having. And they were just solid lead crystals, so heavy. And she was really struggling to carry them all. And she was, so earnest. She was earnest. I could feel it. And she just wanted to carry them. She was just like, this, I have to do this. The next scene, all the glass falls to the ground, and my gut just gets like the gut punch of watching this beautiful crystal fall to the ground and smash in a million pieces. Absolute disaster. The embodiment of the brokenness was just like I couldn't breathe, because it was just so devastating, knowing the value that they had for her. And I was looking at this awful pile of broken glass. And the next thing, before I could even acknowledge how awful this was, all of a sudden light started to like glimmer and glint off of these broken pieces, where all of a sudden this whole new breath of air like came in, and I couldn't see it as bad anymore. I couldn't see it as sad. I was dazzled. Like I was dazzled by it. It was white and bright and glittery. And oh my God, I was like, this is like the best thing I've ever seen. And it was dancing for me, and it was just coming to life. And all of a sudden I'm like mesmerized, and I'm in wonderment of this glorious mess, because it's not even a mess. I'm like, this is a show. This is a Vegas show. Then color starts to pop through, and also it's like rainbows of colors everywhere. Bing, 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 bing. And I start to wonder, because I'm like, okay, this is weird. I start to realize I'm watching, where is this coming from? I start to become conscious that this is happening. And I wonder for the briefest moment, what is this? What is this? And I understand, I hear specifically, a mosaic is being made. And I'm like, a mosaic? Well, that's okay. A mosaic is being made. And I'm like, okay. And it said, the mosaic will have far more meaning than the glass's original intent. And that was it. And then I woke up. Actually, that is not it. Before I woke up, I heard, so bless the mess and trust the process. And then I woke up and wrote. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, because what I understood was there was so much here. There's so much here in this story for anyone that hears it. Because sometimes we're the woman that's earnest and trying. Sometimes we feel like we're the glasses. And sometimes we're the whole thing. And the misunderstandings and misinterpretations of what is happening in this journey that we're on, this experience of life, is encapsulated in this story. That what we think is a mess isn't really a mess. And that if we spend more time with it, we'll understand what it really is, what else it is. And that if we could even open up to the fact that something else is being created that has far more meaning than its original intent, than what we thought it was supposed to be, or what we thought should happen. And to understand that there are miracles in this mess, and for us to trust it, and to consider what else our lives inside and out are trying to show us, and to be more courageous and curious and creative with how we navigate life and death and all the WTFs. So that was a real pivoting point for me, and it opened up this work that became the foundation of everything. And Daring to Suck actually came after that. But that always sticks with me when we talk about what we're talking about, all these pieces. And then it went on to show me later, I was curious about this mosaic, and then it evolved into like stained glass, that each one of us is so unique, how we're here in this body with this soul that moves through us, that drives us. And like, there's a wish for us to get curious about that energy that moves through us and the personality of it, because the same light moves through our glass that moves through our neighbor, but they're a very different design. They're configured in a very different way. And the wish is for us to own and take full responsibility, meaning our ability to respond to what we are, to who we are and what we are. Don't forget who and what we are, but to reclaim it, and to help kind of I feel like a lot of the work, if we want to call it work, which I hate that word, but it comes up a lot, the process or whatever, being here, living, humaning, is to be curious about parts of our glass that want our attention, paying attention. They want us to look a bit closer. Maybe it needs cleaning. Maybe it needs some love, to let that light shine through more clearly so that we can be that full, true expression in all of the colors. And that doesn't mean just the nice ones. Okay. Right. So when you say it has to, we don't put this is that full permission. Who might you be when you let yourself be mad? Whoa, there's a whole other thing. That's a whole other door we don't often walk through. But what I know to be true is we're a whole lot more than we think we are, and it's not bad and it's not wrong. We're powerful AF. And that's one way we get to be powerful sometimes. But then, that's so funny. They're like, when you handle it responsibly. And I'm like, very cute. So, yeah. that it's all, not to wash this over, but that it's all divine, that it is all to be trusted, that you couldn't be in safer hands than in the seat of yourself, So that wanted to be shared. Oh, comments. 11. I like that number. We all love that number.
Comments or questions?
I've got some cards here if somebody wants.
Gardening tips.
Gardening tips. Oh, talk about the eggs. Oh my gosh. It's talking about
yes, the eggs. That's curious.
So it's just interesting. These retreats they're so funny because I show up and I don't know what this sounds very irresponsible, but I was just told intuitively, this is the daring to suck part. Show up, just show up, Keri-Anne. When you get there, we'll give you the next step. So I'm always dared to show up, and then I do get the next step. And I knew that I needed to get eggs. I needed to get pumpkins, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do with them. The eggs were presented, and then I channeled this idea, and I was like, what do you guys think? Do you think that's crazy? And they were like, we love it. And the idea was this: everybody gets, if you want to express something and honor something that's arising in you, you can use eggs, you can use a plate. So I had plates set up. You can write whatever you want, express whatever wants to be expressed on this material. So we had plates, we had glasses, we had eggs, and people spent time, expressing whatever it was that they wanted to acknowledge. And it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all heavy shit. Some of it was people were finally ready to claim their greatness. They wanted to express joy. But the idea was to write something on these vessels, on this material, and to spend time with it and to acknowledge it and then decide what you wanted to do with it. And so it was never the assumption of, you're going to smash it, even though everyone was like, I want to smash it, because we do like that. And I had a bat. I have a bat that I take. So it's like, what does your soul want to do with this? And it was just so cool to see, 10, 12 women decide, and watching them decide, like, what do I want to do? Oh my God, I get to choose. Like, even just having that, like, I get to do whatever I want, and to kind of like roll around in it and indulge in the opportunity. And so some women threw eggs on logs, and we witnessed, and then we asked, and then the idea was, well, how was that? What did you notice? And what's here now? And there was always some amazing awareness, some amazing intuition, some amazing like aha that was so unique that had to move through them. It wasn't me telling them. It's like giving ourselves time and space to experience who we are. And so there were eggs and the plates, and oh my God, women, and what it evoked in them to embody their emotion or energy or experiences. Some people wrote experiences on these things. The pumpkins were cool. It was like, take this pumpkin, they're pretty heavy, go into the forest and go find a place that really speaks to you. With the retreats up until now have been on Galiano, which is on the west coast of Canada. Beautiful, rugged, foresty, very Star Warsy, Ewok village looking. And it's like, go find a place there that speaks to you, and then go be with this and just find out what this is for you. What do you want to write on it? What do you want to honor? What do you want to express? And some women, it was a celebration pumpkin. It was like, I'm ready to claim all the things I am. And then we all had a sort of a presentation if you felt like you wanted to present. If you didn't, some women didn't, and they just wanted us to witness them doing something with it, whatever they wanted to do. And so it's like our soul loves creative ways of like experiencing itself through us as humans. And embodiment is a huge way of doing that. So yeah, that's the eggs. And some women smashed the pumpkins with baseball bats. Some women just threw them into the ocean. And the funny part was that we were hoping for like a satisfying, like sinking. Well, they float, which is hilarious. So then the ocean became this bobbing weirdness of like pumpkins, which was funny. And and these like stoned kayakers came up. This was actually very funny. These stoned kayakers came up with the pumpkins, and they were just baked out of their minds. And they're surrounded by these pumpkins, and you can hear them on the water, because water, you can hear everything from miles away, and you hear this, oh guys, dude, what is going on? And they get up to the shore, and we're packing up. And one of them goes, did you see all the pumpkins? And without a beat, I'm like, pumpkins? What? And everyone, but all the women were like, we don't see any pumpkins. And they were freaking out. They were like, you don't see them, they're there. And we were like, oh man, gosh, what's going on with you guys to see pumpkins floating in the water? It was hilarious. Anyway, so we really messed with them. But yeah, you gotta laugh. You got to find fun where you can. But yeah, I think there's a full spectrum. I often akin it to like a piano. We often play certain keys and we don't know what the dun 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 feels like, but I think there's just an opportunity. We live in a day and age where we get to. There's so much we haven't given ourselves permission to do or say because we think we'll be bad or wrong or whatever. It's like, what if wrong doesn't exist? Because they're holy mistakes, and sometimes they're perfect. Sometimes me freaking out at somebody is exactly what's needed because being nice didn't work. I don't know. But I think it's like, how do we want to explore? That's not about being irresponsible and like unloading my anger irresponsibly. It's about honoring that sometimes, animals are pretty honest and they bite. That's not a bad thing. We don't blame the animal. That's a natural response, and it's respected. Badger's badger because, badger doesn't give a shit because badger's badger, and people get out of the way when badger comes. There's a respect there. So, we can learn a lot from the natural world. So yes, self-expression is an opportunity to kind of take ourselves from one end of the spectrum. I often get a lot of people that hang out on one side, and then the thing that they always do doesn't work anymore. They're like, Karen, doesn't work anymore. I can't do it anymore. I used to show up. I used to be a type A, and I'm broken. I can't work the way I used to. Something's changed. And it's because I know on a soul level, their soul is like done with it. They're like, we're done being that. We want to be this. Like, we want to go to this side. And they're freaked out. They're like, I don't know who I'll be if I do that. I can feel that I want to, but I'm having a massive identity crisis. And so there's a facilitating through that, because it's hard. It's a becoming and undoing process all at the same time. Man, what a ride. I just love life. It's my favorite.
I wanted to share well, first of all, Keri-Anne, I know I haven't really put my voice in the circle very much tonight, but we're such in alignment with just what I do, surfing your soul. And so everything, it's so beautiful. And Margot had put something in the chat earlier about, just we're waiting for permission. And we all need to write ourselves permission slips because, many went to these schools that, really programmed us. And recently I've really been feeling that in the last few months, like, why did it take me so long to free my spirit and my soul? And then I just it was by design, the schools I went to and that whole system. So I say that to identify that, yet also what you're doing and being on this global fire.earth all week till the 22nd, these people who are speaking, we're all, I think that's they're even saying, we're enlightening the way forward. And this conversation is exactly the conversation that's been had. And today it was on education and just freeing our children. And, my soul, I never cared about grades or the gold star, any of that for myself or my 4 children. And, but I had to perform when I was, myself, but I let my kids get whatever grades they want, just experience. And it was about 5 years ago, I finally got, it is per my mission to do XYZ, whatever it is, because I love to play with words and change the words. It's like I was always looking, even my spiritual teacher where Bob and I met, like I waited so long, just like always looking for permission to do this, move this way or that way. So that was very freeing, just like per my mission, you know.
Love that.
So this, you know, this hour and a half is always the fastest hour and a half of my week. We are getting close to that time, but I don't know if people need to jump off. I know we have our own room, so someone isn't coming in behind us, because you mentioned you had cards. And so I didn't know if,
oh yeah, how much time do we have?
I mean, it's 7:24. If you could do that in 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll just do a quick wrap up, you know, 2 minutes. A little announcement.
Cool. Yeah, just cut me off when, yeah, because I can't see. I'm on my phone and I can't see everything.
Might be nice for everyone to cap with that.
Yeah, sure. If you have like a specific question or guidance you want around, or just a message, we'll just see what the cards say. So I like to work with Jamie Sam's medicine cards. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them, but I love them. They're just so deep and earthy, and they honor First People medicine, and just, yeah, they just honor the earth. And the
Can you show us the card deck?
And
Oh yeah, that's what they look like. They're super retro.
Oh.
They're like right from the 70s.
What is the name of them again?
Jamie Sam's medicine cards. You can get them on Amazon or like your local spiritual store. And they look like this, like even just like bow, bow, bow. Like it's, sorry, I always want to do sort of some funky 70s music. But yeah, they're not all flowery and have angels on them and stuff. They're animals. And yeah. And so I'm very attuned to the medicine of them. And so, yeah, does anybody want a message? And we'll see what comes through.
Keri-Anne, can I just say something synchronistic?
Please.
Love synchronicity. It's Olivia. Synchronicity rocks. But what's wonderful is that I'm reading The 13 Grandmothers by Jamie Sams right now, today. I just ordered it and got it yesterday.
Beautiful.
Bring her medicine cards. I just decided to order them today.
Oh, that's so cool. You're going to love them. They're just, they're written ahead of, you know, before, yeah, definitely ahead of her time.
Do a collective message, a general inspiration message for us all.
All right. Well, let me I'm going to pull a couple of cards for everybody. Oh, okay. So I'm a bit of a weirdo, and they have to fly out. That's my rule. So you have to see me ducking out of the camera. The first, I'm going to see what the combos are. I'm going to pull 2. Let's see what comes up. So I think that'll probably lead us right to the end. So the first card is, oh gosh. Oh, okay. That is so perfect. Okay. So the first card is spider, right? Medicine is spider with alligator. And I'm going to talk about these two separately. Spider really honors, yeah, thank you, Holly, for sharing the name of the cards. I just saw that. Spider is all about weaving our web, you know, being consciously aware of bringing things to life. You know, spider brought the alphabet. They say that spider is the one that wove the alphabet and brought it to life, because we needed more, we needed language. And so spider was this connector to help us create a new way of communicating. And there's a real piece here about the importance of recording our progress. One of the final steps that I offer in Daring to Suck is a bow on everything, but it is also ever present in every step, which is about acknowledgement and appreciation. Noticing, really seeing you in every step, noticing what you're trying, noticing what you're learning, admitting, you know, how you're changing and growing. We need that fuel to keep us going, because if we aren't that for us, it's really hard to move forward. It's hard to stay here. It's hard to, because then it's like, what's the point? You know, that's the new finish line, is like, what can I acknowledge and appreciate about what I am, who I am, what I know, what I don't know. And that it all gets to be somewhat of a celebration in support of our learning and growth. But spider in itself is the representation of the figure 8 of the body, the infinite female creative force, 8 legs, 8 body, designing your life to hand the keys back. It's time to hand the keys back to us and remember who we are and what we are, that we're infinite beings, and not to get caught up in the web of illusion. Now, that in itself is a massive message for us all to remember and just take with us. Alligator wants to slide on in, and alligator is about integrating. Now, what Asaki was saying about how I ground stuff, a lot of times we look outside of ourselves, we look to angels, and we're automatically looking up and kind of out to reach down and pull it back in. But what we don't understand is that whatever is happening with us, through us, to us, for us, is the gateway. There's no other, in this spiritual path. It doesn't want to bypass our humanity. It doesn't want to bypass any of it. It wants to bring it even closer and for us to get more curious and have a different conversation. But alligator is all about integration. That's the grounding energy that Asaki was talking about. It's like not looking away, letting things. So what alligator does is it takes its prey and it does its death roll. And this all sounds very dark, but it takes the meat. It doesn't eat it right away. It can't. It won't be able to digest it. I mean, notice how that tunes into what we've been talking about today. It can't digest it. It has to bury it under a log and let it break down a little bit. There's a process of nature helping that break down so it can integrate that nutrients into its system. It doesn't all happen at once. So alligator is a message of divine timing, to trust that you're right on time every step of the way. Your willingness, your willingness, your readiness, whatever. And that it wants to reinforce the full value, that there's nothing to rush through. There's nothing to rush through. And if it's like, instead of sort of leaning in all the time, I got to lean into this, I got to do the work. And we kind of get a scrunchy up brow, that they want us to actually relax more. They want us to support ourselves more in a more relaxed and cared for nervous system, for things to be fully digested. And there's something about the pleasure and the pain, and to allow all of it, as there's something about harmony here as well, and patience in the timing, that everything is as it should be. And we wish that you would trust that more. So I think that, I don't know how that lands, but I just feel like that, yeah, there it is.
Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you are the conversationalist tonight, as we, because we're going to take a break the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just, talk about weaving the web. That's exactly what, when Co-Creators Convergence brought this forth, and to start this here weekly on The Conversation, weaving the web, and then how each new person is coming in. It's been beautiful. So thank you so much. You have a lot of thank yous. If you guys want to save the chat, Tim was putting a lot of things in there. You can press those 3 little buttons on the bottom right-hand side. It will save the chat for you, so you can go back and access that.
Oh, nice.
Oh, do you have a book? Someone.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing. Sorry, Holly. Holly's my business manager, and she's
Laura's asking.
I do. I have about 1 million of them, and it's going to be called Daring to Suck: A Soul's Journey Through Life, Death, and all the WTFs along the way. So it wants to talk about the whole process. So in the meantime, if anything came up that is what I hate is when things kind of get opened up and there's no support afterwards. So just know that I'm on Facebook and I do have a group called Radical Acceptance. It's free, but I also have a paid community that right now is like $33 a month, where I'm there weekly. And I offer sort of these readings and intuition and support and guidance. So feel free to reach out if there's any questions or WTFs that I arose or woke up, because I just don't like people feeling like they're kind of flailing out there with some thoughts that, right? I think that support on the other side is really important.
Yeah, it's that reminder to take really good care of yourselves and
drink lots of water.
So if you enjoyed this, we've been doing this for the past 3 or 4 months. And I know in the beginning, Noelle put the co-creatorsconvergence.com website on there. Join the Facebook page if you haven't. You can get on their list. But on the Co-Creators Convergence site, Bob and Noelle have put all of these conversations on there. And I did one. It was wonderful. Bob did one. Olivia did one. Asaki. And we'll be back on January 7th. And in the meantime, I do encourage you to check out the conversation.cc. And they've also added thepressconference.org, which gives you an opportunity. Every Thursday, they're going to be doing a press conference for 2 minutes. You get to give your magic. And it's an opportunity for you to also then host your own open house if you want something just like this. Every week, every other week, every month, once a month, you decide an open house where people can gather and we can keep, enlightening our way forward together.